question, if your name is on the card, will be given 30 seconds as a follow-up. We have many people here, and we'd like to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. Any questions? Okay, without further ado, I'll begin by asking Fendi, who is in... So we will start with... Here we go. So we'll start with Senator Kaplan, who will have 2 minutes of introductory remarks. Senator Kaplan, the microphone.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. My name is Anna Kaplan, and I'm Anna Kaplan. I'm State Senator for District 7, which includes, I want to say, about half of Elmont, and then it moves up to Floral Park, South Floral Park, New Hyde Park, part of Garden City Park, Great Neck, Manhasset, Roslyn, Port Washington, Carl Place, Westbury, and a little piece of Hicksville. I've been in the office for the last 3 months. I am proud to say that we just, last week at 4 a.m., passed our first budget, New York State budget, of a $175 billion budget with the Assembly and also with Governor Cuomo. I'm proud to say that it is not a perfect budget, but we worked very hard to really deliver for Long Island. Some of the key things that we accomplished in this budget are the permanent 2% tax cap, because we saw for the longest time how taxes kept going up in Long Island, and it's becoming very unaffordable for people to stay and for people to move to Long Island. We've brought in record number of funding for our public education. I have to say this is something that's very dear to my heart. One of my campaign promises was to make sure that we bring more money back. I would have liked to bring more, but you know, it's only 3 months, and we're working very hard to do more for a lot of our public schools, who are really the great things about our community, and this is why people move here to Elmont, or move to Port Washington, or to Westbury. It's our public schools, and we pride ourselves in having the best schools and giving the best education to our kids. We also we try to do exactly what we preach. We ask municipalities to stay within the 2% tax cap. We stayed ourselves within 2% of tax spending, so that we don't go above the number that we have. And some of the other stuff that we did accomplish was really criminal justice reform that's in this budget, and a lot of different things that our public schools wanted to carve out to be able to have a lot of better handle of their budgets when they go and have that passed by the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have with us Assemblywoman Michael Salage, who will be next up. 2 minutes?
Yes, 2 minutes. Wow. First, I don't know if we did this yet, but I want to do a moment of silence for the police officer who died. There was a police officer who was from Elmont. He has 5 children, and he was on his way to work, and he unfortunately got on a motorcycle accident and died. So please, let's keep his family in our prayers, and we want to organize something for the family because he did have a newborn. So, you know, she's going to need, the mother's going to need our thoughts and our prayers. So. But, you know, good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is Assemblywoman Michael Salage. I'm born and bred Elmont here. You know, I went to Judge Broadway. I did go to Cary High School. You know, I stayed on Long Island because, to me, Long Island is one of the best places in the world. And so every day when I go up to Albany, I fight for you, my neighbors. You're not my constituents, you're my neighbors. Because if I'm not an assembly member, I still have to be accountable to you because I'm going to see you at the supermarket. So I want to thank you so much for being engaged in government. So really quick, we did pass a $175 billion budget. You know, we had a 7% increase, $7 billion. I can't talk to it. The 2 minutes kind of threw me off. We had $7 billion increase in spending. And we had a $6 billion deficit because of the SALT deduction. So we had to be prudent with your tax dollars. And so some of the accomplishments that we did, at least when we're fighting against the executive budget, is making sure that we preserve the STAR tax credit. The governor did propose changes to the STAR tax credit, but it was up to $250,000 through $500,000. So anyone who makes that, please meet me in the back. I want to talk to you and find out your secret. But most of us aren't affected because we make less than that. But we did preserve the STAR program, and we are making sure that we put more money into STAR because that's important to me and to a lot of other homeowners. In addition, there's two things in the executive budget that I wanted to champion. First was making sure that we lay the foundation for universal pre-K. Right now, right across the border, 4-year-olds are being serviced by New York City. All 4-year-olds have access to universal pre-K. We don't, because we have educational infrastructure issues, whether it's not enough classroom space or the funding to implement these programs. So we put up about $500,000 of money to look at how we can build universal pre-K into this community. We also put a lot of money into water infrastructure. The other day, when we did the 2015 Water Infrastructure Bond Act, we put $3 million into cleaning up the water of Elmont. So Western Nassau County got a chunk of money for that. In addition, we're fighting for grant money for our schools, and we also pushed back against about $500 million of Medicaid cuts. And so the executive proposed cutting Medicaid, which is nursing homes, hospitals, and so we pushed back against that. As a member of the health committee, I know quality health care is so important. So not only did we enshrine the Affordable Care Act here in New York State, so if whatever happens on a federal level, we will always have a health exchange so that we can have quality health care. With my few seconds left over, I want to say that my office with Senator Kaplan, we're facilitating free smoke alarms. We have a lot of home fires here locally, so if you need a smoke alarm, please call my office, call Kaplan's office. We're giving out free smoke alarms, regardless of income. We just come in, the volunteers come in, we assess the house, and then we do one on each floor. So please, get a smoke alarm. Let's end home fires.
Thank you, and we now have
Good evening, everyone. I'm Laura Gillen. I'm the Town of Hempstead Supervisor. I'm not Laura Curran. She's the county executive, and she's actually a different person, a lovely person, but she's a different person. So she's in charge of the county, I'm in charge of the town. I ran on a campaign based on transparency, fiscal responsibility, and increasing access to town government. And that's something that in my first year in office I really tried to push forward. I came into town hall I asked our clerk here, Sylvia Cabana, to show me all the contracts because I wanted to put them all online. I was expecting her to take me to a computer database, but instead she took me to a giant room filled with filing cabinets and manila folders. Every contract for the town of Hempstead was in a manila folder. This is the largest town in America, and nothing was scanned. I pushed forward transparency legislation, which I put before the board, and they adopted it. And because of that legislation, we've had our department scan their contracts. We have over 200, maybe we might even be up higher than that now, services and goods contracts online on our website. That you can see. All our financial audits are online now. Our audited financials are online now. Mr. Bercacci, who's taping over there, he used to come to the town board meetings. He'd ask for the audited financials, and he'd be told he has to FOIL for them. That's ridiculous. It's your money. You deserve to know how it's going to be spent, and you shouldn't have to file a FOIL request to get it. You don't anymore. It's online. You can see it right there. The reason this is important is because if you can see how your tax dollars are being spent, you can be your own watchdog, and you can feel confident that your government is doing the right thing by you. So that's up online. We created a new procurement policy. Department heads should just be able to pick whoever they want to do business with. It should be an open, transparent process whereby people have the opportunity to compete to do business with the town of Hempstead. I believe it was also Mr. Bercacci who asked our town attorney, how do you decide what law firms you do business with? He said, we just pick them. That's changed now. We created a new legislation that any personal services contract over $10,000 has to be put out through an RFQ, so anyone who wants to do business with the town, an engineer, an architect, a law firm, has the opportunity to do business. We passed that resolution, we put out an RFQ, we had a number of law firms and other consulting firms that have responded. We had them reviewed and screened by a bipartisan panel, and now we have a roster of attorneys with a far number and far more inclusive group of attorneys and consultants who can work with the town of Hempstead. We're looking at every contract, finding out how your taxpayer dollars are being spent and are they being spent in the most efficient way. We have representatives from the town highway department and our building department here. Together with the fine men and women in our highway department, we have made an unprecedented investment in roads. I know, the roads are bad. In the town of Hempstead, we have 1,200 miles of roadway. It's aging infrastructure. If I could repave all of them, I would, but it's cost prohibitive. It's got $1 million per mile. But in 2016, the prior administration, in that year, they spent under $5 million repaving roads. In 2017, just a little over $5 million repaving roads. In 2018, my first year in office, I inherited a budget, it wasn't my budget, but we actually did the work and we spent $17.5 million repaving roads. More than double what they spent in the past 2 years. This year in our budget, in our capital plan, we're putting forward $30 million to invest in roads. I know you get flat tires, I got 3 this year. The only good thing was it wasn't on one of my roads. So we hear you, we're trying to fix it. Access to government. I think I'm the first supervisor who ever did a budget roadshow. I went through in every councilmatic district talking to people about how the budget was done, how the budget was made, and how your dollars were going to be spent. I'm also doing community meetings. I've done one in every councilmatic district so far, just to give you an update on my first year in office and what we've done. And I'm planning one in Elmont Library. The date is just being worked out right now, so I'll be able to tell you more about what's going on in the town of Hempstead right now. The issue that everybody in this room should be focused on at the moment is right now, unfortunately, there's a vacancy in your seat because your councilman, unfortunately, pled guilty to tax evasion and he is no longer a councilman for you. So you are right now unrepresented. I have called for a special election. I believe everybody in this room has the right to choose their elected representative and it should not be chosen for you. But on Tuesday, this Tuesday at 10:30, the majority has put up a resolution to appoint a candidate, their candidate for office. This has never happened before. They've always appointed people. Everybody on the town board, except for me and Dorothy Gooseby, has been selected, not elected initially for their seat. But on Tuesday, they've never put a candidate. There's never been declared candidates before. But on this Tuesday, they're going to try to appoint their declared candidate to give them an advantage in this race against the other candidate who's running for that seat. If you want your voice to be heard, if you think you should pick your own representative, then have council members who you didn't elect, who represent other jurisdictions. You should show up, sign a petition, let your voice be heard. Thank you. And just one final thing is that I have to go to my daughter's play. She's the lead in the play, so I will be leaving right now or else I will be in more trouble than you can imagine. So I'm leaving a bunch of my cards in the back and you can call my office with any questions you have. I see a hand in the back, I'll get you on my way out.
Just quick, where are we showing up?
Town Hall,
Thank you.
1 Washington Street, Hempstead Village.
Okay.
There's a pavilion, that's where the town board meeting is. So I'll leave my cards in the back and I will be coming back for a community meeting. I hope you have a good night. Call my office if you have any questions. And we have people from our building department and our highway department here also to answer your questions.
I've never... Oh.
Next up.
Hi everyone, I'm Sylvia Cabana and I'm your town clerk, along with Supervisor Gillen, and I have to apologize, I have to go to my daughter's band concert. She's a fan. So, but in any event, we ran on a platform of modernizing, transparency, accessibility. In terms of modernizing, guess what? We got credit card machines in the clerk's office. So that's pretty great. So all the different things, different licenses, different things that you pay for, now you can pay for it with a credit card. We also have now certain parking lots that are, for commuters. They're town of Hempstead parking lots. We created a program where you can apply for the parking permit online. So again, modernizing, it's a great thing. We have 72 typewriters. We have a lot of typewriters in the town of Hempstead. We're trying to modernize that also. We're trying to create a program. I'm responsible for the agenda for these crazy town board meetings. That comes out of my office. So we're trying to get a program going where it would just make the whole agenda process a lot easier. There's about 19, almost 20% of the residents here in the town of Hempstead identify as Hispanic, some kind of Hispanic. I speak Spanish, so it was important to me to make government accessible for people of all different cultures. I translated many documents into Spanish. Passport department. We have a great passport department in the town of Hempstead. In case some of you may not know, you can get your passport right there on 1 Washington Street. I have made that program also more accessible by making certain libraries, certain town parks, certified by the State Department as passport acceptance facilities. That includes Merritt Golf Course, Echo Park, which is around here, Garden City Public Library. I'm trying to get as many different things certified by the State Department so that you can get your passport as easily as possible. As town clerk, I am also able to marry people. So I've created, my job is kind of fun, it's not as stressful as hers. So I've created a destination wedding program. So we have a lot of beautiful town beaches. So last summer we started it, about 26 couples got married on the beach. I officiated many of those weddings myself, free to taxpayers. So if anyone's looking to get married or renew their vows, if you want to do it on the beach, call Sylvia Cabana. So in any event, the clerk's office, I've created a historical tour program, which I'd like to bring to Elmont too. If you want to see anything, just please come to the clerk's office. Whatever I can do for you, it's my pleasure. I know Mikhail Salaj and Senator Kaplan, they know how much I love Elmont as well. So whatever I can do, I love your community. I love all the diversity and the culture. And I love when I campaigned here that I can speak French, I can speak Spanish, I can speak whatever I want. So in any event, it's a pleasure to be with you. And I'm so sorry that I cut off Commissioner Ryder. Not a good thing. Not a good thing.
Well, I had to actually take the microphone, so I'm hoping that I will.
It's a long ride home.
I know. Commissioner Ryder.
I don't have a daughter. She's in college. She don't like me anyhow. I just gotta pay that bill. But I don't like city either. I was just here last week and down the street.
I'm gonna get it. This kid's gonna kill me.
That were at that town meeting. But again, here and I'll repeat some of the stuff that we were doing in the police department. But I gotta tell you, I've never heard somebody talk as fast as the last two speakers. They work just as fast, trust me. But so in the police department, your commanding officer Jimmy Bartschow is here, of the 5th precinct. Also, Lieutenant Algier is also next to him. He's the head of our plainclothes and our pop guys. Last night, 2 nights ago, we had a meeting. We reopened up the 6th and the 8th precincts in Nassau County. We are whole once again. All our precincts are back up and running at full staff. And I will give a lot of credit to both Carrie and his sister here, because they kept the 5th precinct open for all that time and a good fight, and it was done. So we believe that a precinct is part of the community, and the community is part of the precinct, and you identify to that precinct. So it's so important to us that the precinct stayed open. It wasn't a police department decision, but it was a management decision in the last go around. And look, there was money to be saved in times that were tight, but sometimes it's just not worth that money. And that's the way it goes. So, look, crime is down 33% in the last 10 years. Violent crime is down somewhere in the neighborhood about 58%. Well, we used to average about 1,900 burglaries, and at this time during we'd be about almost 800. We have 42 so far this year in the county. So our shootings are down. What used to be the Roosevelt Union Hill shootings, which used to go about 350 shootings, we had 15 last year. Robberies are down, our commercial robberies and our street robberies are down, our burglaries are down, violent crime is down. One thing is up, our opiate crisis, and we know that. And we fought it last year hard. We got a reduction of 24% in non-fatal and 11% in fatal. But the work does not stop there. That only took me from 194 kids that died from opiates to 178 or some of that number. That's still not nowhere good. So we have a lot of work to do. We're bringing back the Too Good for Drugs program. Paid for it out of asset forfeiture money. It's going to every school. They start training. I believe it's in 2 weeks. The schools are sending, we'll train them. We bought them the materials. They'll come back and speak at the school. On top of it, I added 6 police officers into our community affairs office. So now we have more officers to come speak at the schools. Last night, 2 nights ago, at the County Ledge meeting, we also agreed that we're going to put an additional pop cop back into every precinct, so you'll get another pop cop. We put 22 cops in our COPE program. So we're expanding this umbrella that we call the community umbrella. It started with the Commissioners' Community Councils. I know some of you are on that board. We meet on a monthly basis with the executive and bi-monthly with the members of the board. and we discuss things that are going on in the police department so we can better use those ambassadors to go out there and speak what's going on in the PD side, but at the same time bring those complaints to me. We did it by the 19 legislative districts, and we did that to be very diverse. Not to have the same people, have different people from each different legislative district come forward with the complaints that are going on in the community so we can fix them. If you can get the vibe so far, everything that we're doing since I've been here is about community. Community, community, community. That's what we're trying to do. We're going and we're listening to the complaints, we're coming into the community, we're making the corrections that we need to make as fast as we can to, again, improve that relationship between us and you. So our gang issue in Nassau County really is not a big issue as it was in 17. We kind of put it to bed in 18. We arrested a whole bunch of people. We had one gang murder last year. It was on the city border in Lawrence. It was after a young man went and killed somebody on the city side, got chased down, and then he killed him here on the Nassau side. Again, 2 young men, MS-13 members killing each other. Opiates is a problem for us. Crime is well under control. We're going to still move. We're down additional crime numbers again this year. Nassau County got voted in the top 100 healthiest communities to live in the country. One of the numbers you got to look into that rating is the percentage of public safety. And when you look at the public safety percent, we're the only agency in that top 100 to score 100. We scored 100% on our public service when it comes to public safety. The last thing that you need to know is when it comes to your schools and your kids, your superintendents are doing a fabulous job. A fabulous job when it comes to the public safety side. We're working hand in hand. We've trained every superintendent. We've trained every principal. We've done active shooters in just about every school so far. We've done assessments at the schools. We've looked over their security measures to help them grow with us. We mandate a cop visits a school building every single day. So there's 177 buildings visited a day out of the 430 that are in there. So after 3 days a week, we've been to every school building in Nassau County. Again, saying hello. And that repeats and repeats and repeats. Because we familiarize ourselves with the environment that we police. If you understand it, you police it better. We also put the rave app in every single building now. There's 420 buildings, I believe, in the public school system. Every one of them now has a rave app, and just about half of the libraries now have the rave app. The rave app, and God forbid if an active shooter, allows you to push an app on the phone. It's already geo-fenced. It knows exactly where the call's coming from. We're responding. You can talk, or you can listen, or you can do nothing and just leave the phone down and we can listen. And it allows us to communicate, God forbid, of the active shooter. If an active shooter occurred in this building, you lock that door, you go to this corner. The reason you go to this corner is because if they don't see you, they don't shoot the lock off in the door. It doesn't happen, only in the movies. So we teach and train that. In Parkland, something different happened. The heat from the gun set the fire alarm off. It brought those kids from the 3rd floor into the hallway. When they got into the hallway, the shooter started shooting them like he was shooting ducks in a pond. That's how those poor kids were killed in Parkland. We've changed the way we do it now. You don't leave a room unless you get the public announcement. Again, so all of that is how we learn and grow and change with it. We learn and grow and change with you as a community, and we'll keep working towards keeping your kids safe, keeping the crime down, and working together on the opiates. Thank you.
We have, thank you all. We have several department representatives, and what I will do at this point is we will begin asking questions. I will begin reading questions, and questions that are directed to your particular departments, I will come to you for those. Okay? So the first question goes to Senator Kaplan, and it says, throughout your campaign, you indicated support for the New York Health Act. However, you are yet to co-sign said act. What's the holdup?
We really have not had a chance to go over and speak about it in conference. We have no numbers to see what the cost is and how it will be paid. I'm waiting for all of those from Senator Rivera, who chairs the Health Committee. And as soon as I have those numbers, I will definitely look into them and see what we could do.
May I follow up? That was my question. I just didn't put my name.
Okay. You have exactly 30 seconds. Go right ahead.
Sure. Senator Kaplan, the last time I raised this question to you, it was because my grandmother, she due to the cost of long-term health care, she actually had to leave the state, and she was put in a home that was closer to some of my other relatives. But overall, the stress of having to care for an infirm elderly parent really took a toll on my family. Since then, she died. She died in February. And there's no amount of New York Health Act that can help her. But through your actions, you can prevent that kind of situation from happening for all of your constituents.
I can tell you, first of all,
sorry, just to follow up. I've been in contact with Senator Rivera. I know that he's actively trying to reach out to the Long Island senators who have yet to co-sign. And I'll move heaven and earth to arrange a meeting between yourself, Senator Rivera, the Assembly sponsor, Jay Godfrey, who's a huge proponent of this. And I was also speaking to Len Rodberg, who he's like a PhD. His job is to do all the economic projections for this bill. So I'll arrange a meeting. I'll make sure that happens. But the only thing that I can't move myself is Senator Anna Kaplan. So if I reach out to you, do I have your firm commitment that as soon as possible, we'll sit down with the people who can answer your questions so we can support this act?
so I'm going to go further to say, first of all, in this budget, we codified Affordable Care Act, which was a big, big deal. With regard to the health care for all, I can tell you it's not ripe yet. And if it was ripe, I see Senator Rivera every day in conference and in session. If this was already ready to be rolled out, our leader would roll it out. So it's not ready, and if I don't have the numbers, I can't really put my approval on it. But as soon as I know we are actively all working on it, as soon as it's ready, we will all be on board with it.
Thank you. We can't continue the dialogue, but again, actually on behalf of the entire community, we really would like to send our condolences and to you for your loss and your family for your loss. The next question, it's a statement followed by a question, or not a question. We need rent control for New York State, not just the city. Will there be an Assembly and Senate bill that addresses rent control for all of the state? Ms. Solange.
So, you know, the Assembly just rolled out our housing. Oh, you know, I love to stand. So, the Assembly just rolled out our housing package. And so, most people don't know, there technically is universal rent control here in Nassau County. So it covers New York City, Nassau County, Erie County, and one other municipality upstate. And that's because the housing stock, the affordable housing stock in Nassau County is below a certain threshold. And so unfortunately, the town of Hempstead, they don't have this initiative, sometimes called emergency, you know, like housing. And Mimi Johnson, I see, is an advocate for that. And so we did roll out our package of bills for rent control. And we're having a hearing both in New York City and in Albany to hear from you, the constituents of New York State, as to what they want to see in that package. And the rent laws expire on June 15th. And so we have a small bit of time to kind of, you know, coalesce, talk about how we want this to look like, and then pass something on June 15th. I was around when they did the last extension of universal housing laws. I happened to be 9 months pregnant. So we were talking about it, we were debating it, I remember it very vividly, and so we had a strong package then, but unfortunately we didn't have in the Senate partners who believe that tenants should have rights as well. And so this time around we do have a Democratic majority in the Senate, so we feel that we can pass a lot of good legislation that will protect tenants when it comes to housing laws.
Thank you. The next question, actually, it's prefaced by another statement. It says that this morning everyone woke up to, many of us, and I included, woke up to the news that the Wyandotte School District is literally going to have a tax increase close to 25 or 30%, somewhere in there. And the question that came to mind was, with the codification of the 2% tax cap, and for both Senator and Assemblywoman, how do you think the 2% tax cap has played into this evolving public education problem, notwithstanding the increases that the governor and the budget has made this year?
So I don't really know much about Wyandanch. It's not part of my district, but I can tell you this year we've had record-breaking amount added to the foundation aid and education throughout New York State. There's an increase of about 3.9%. I'm happy to say my district, District 7, has gotten 8.6% increase. I could also go further and say the Monday morning that we passed the budget, Monday at about 9 a.m. I was in the office calling every superintendent in my district and going over the numbers with them, telling them how much their increase was, whether it was their building aid or foundation aid or transportation that they got. So I can't really talk about Wyandanch because it's not a school district that I'm familiar with, but every school district in my Senate district has done very well.
I love the 2% tax cap because it does bring fiscal discipline to school boards and municipality, but it's not perfect. Everyone knows that I have had my issues with the 2% tax cap, whether it's a negative tax cap, which it might happen in the future, whether it's the supermajority, because that's un-American, it's the majority that counts. Does it attribute to what happened in Wyandanch? Maybe. Slightly. I don't have the books, so I can't really speak to what happens, but I do believe that in this area, we have the lowest per pupil spending. And so what happens is that when you have a tax cap and low per pupil spending, there's a point where you keep cutting. You have to cut programs because healthcare keeps increasing, the cost of gas keeps increasing, in your household, your budgets increase. But if you keep lowering the spending or putting a cap on the spending, you're gonna reach a breaking point. And so I'm hoping that in the future we can have a conversation as to fixing the tax cap because nothing in life is perfect. I love my husband, but nothing in life is perfect. So, don't tell him that, please. But I believe that the tax cap, there needs to be adjustments to it, like when it comes to pilots, how it interfaces with the tax cap. And so there's conversations that need to be had, but I can't speak to Wyandanch because I'm not there, but the tax cap is not perfect, and then the Assembly we always have championed changes to the tax cap, but it's good because it does keep fiscal discipline.
Thank you. And again for Assemblywoman Szalai, the question is, why was no money put into the Franklin Square Water District?
I actually have a small area that is covered. I represent a small piece of Franklin Square that is covered, by Polk Street. So, I can't speak to what projects. I know that there's a list of
that wasn't the question.
Oh,
says they cover the Franklin Square Water District supplies water to about 30% of Elmont.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm not concerned about Franklin Square. That wasn't the question. That's what I asked.
Okay, understood. So in order for you to get access to the bond money, there's a whole list of pending projects. So each water district had to have a pending project in order to get into it. I have the list of pending projects. I don't recall seeing the Franklin Square Water District, but definitely I will reach out to them tomorrow and have a conversation and make sure that they're on the list. Because we did allocate about $500 million for this, and so we definitely, with the help of the Senate leaded this initiative. So we are definitely going to talk to the Franklin Square Water District, but I'm going to have actually a meeting with the Department of Health regarding the quality of water in Elmont. There's been some issues that have come up, and so definitely on a state level and also with Nassau County, we've been having conversations. And so just today, the governor's office reached out to me having a conversation about a whole list of issues that are happening with Elmont. And so to me, that's very important, the healthcare issues. And as a member of the health committee, that's always been my champion. But with that, I also ask you all, please get your screenings, your yearly screenings. I know it's worrisome to go and get screenings because you don't know what the results are going to be, but you know, we have to. For instance, prostate cancer, it's treatable, it's curable. But many of us, especially in the African American community, we're afraid to go to the doctor. We find out too late, the prognosis is too late, and unfortunately we pass away from it. So the first part of it is that we have to get our screenings, and the second part is that I'm doing everything I can, moving mountains to ensure that the quality of water here is great, and that we can look at some of the healthcare issues that are happening in Elmont.
If I may add,
Sure.
there is 500 million for water infrastructure, and this is again record-breaking number, and we will help any water district to try to tap and get some of those grants for the benefit of their, their community.
Okay, so now this one is prefaced again with a special thanks to Assemblywoman Salage. Yes.
Yes. Why are we still paying over $1 million in water? The rental on Western Nassau is $978 a hydrant. I just don't understand. We're the highest bill in all of Nassau with any fire department. Why are we still on that?
So just the other day, Senator Kaplan and I had a meeting with Western Nassau County Water. We sat down, we had this topic, and so we're moving on that. We tried to do that. I know we tried to put a bill, but it was unprecedented in the state of New York. So we're definitely having dialogues with them. Like I said, we both sat down and tried to have a conversation, and so we have it on our mind. Trust me, I can't forget about you, Ralphie. I can't afford him to. So definitely we're looking at it.
That money will go back to the taxpayer.
Yes, exactly.
That's my point.
Yeah, it's a double tax if you think about
Right.
it. You're paying it through the water district and also paying it through the fire district. So they're paying for hydrants, and they pay $1 million for the rental of hydrants. So when they come and save your life, when there's a fire, they have to actually pay for the rental of the hydrant, which
And
is
we
not
only
crazy.
have
So
13 fires a year. That was last year. We're getting lower and lower. Good fire prevention.
and thank you to you and your fire department.
Thank you to the fire department.
Okay, we have, since we're getting some feedback from the audience, there's Mimi Pierre Johnson had a follow-up to the question regarding rent controls. Is Mimi here?
Right here in the back.
I'm here.
There you go. Would you mind?
Not at all. Can everyone hear me? No.
Yes.
Yes and no.
First, I want to say thank you to the initiative that we had on Dutch Broadway. I don't think is it on?
No.
You know, our signs and all that good stuff is on. My follow-up to that question is really for the Senate. So, Senator Kaplan, you're on your own. I have, since 2010, you know, as far as rent control and renters protection, we've been fighting for all of those things that Assemblywoman Salage just talked about. So the Assembly has always been a champion on those things, except for the Senate has always started the problem, especially for Long Island. There's a misconception about renters on Long Island as if we don't have any and as if we don't have people that's going through problems when they are renters. And in 2010, our homeless population in New York State has gone 38% higher in New York State since 2010. When you have homelessness and you don't have protection for tenants, what happens to us here as homeowners, you have developers who are getting richer and better deals than us as renters, homeowners. So what's happening right now, developers are purchasing our homes, right, and renting them out. And when they rent it out, they don't have the same qualifications as those who would purchase the homes. So now we're talking about our communities are changing, and these rent laws are super important to not only protect the tenants, but now if you are looking at Long Island, it will also protect the homeowners. So the Assembly has always been a champion. This package that's coming to the Senate, we are afraid that the Senate will not pass it as they did in years past. So now we have 6 senators that should understand the housing crisis that we have in New York State. And I don't believe that you guys understand what is happening here on Long Island. So I don't want to bore everyone, but I have tons and tons of paper and stats that you could look at. And as we meet with you individually, you have to understand the same tenant problems that's in the city, Westchester and upstate, is here on Long Island also.
Thank you. A response? Sure.
So thank you. I can tell you, I can't talk for Senate prior to this year. And I can also tell you, since January we've been in the office, it really has been a whirlwind. I am really, truly privileged and honored to be part of this change. We've passed a lot of historical legislation. And then right after that, we went right into the budget. So it was budget, budget, budget for about a month. And now that we've passed the budget, we're going to go back and try to work on a lot of the legislations that, again, have been held for years. So I don't know much about tenants laws and rental laws. I would love to take some of your, I guess, flyers, your information, read them, and hopefully be able to be an advocate in conference when we talk about it.
Thank you. We're trying to get through as many of the sort of statewide questions before we come to the local questions. So I'm not passing over your local questions. There is a question here regarding Senate Bill 1250. And it's prefaced, it says, "Is this true? The Senate Democrats are passing a law to provide free college tuition okay, it's free college tuition, I'm gonna rephrase it, free college tuition to undocumented persons, totaling 27 million or more, but preceded that was somewhat of a pejorative." Is this true?
So part of the budget, I was actually with Governor Cuomo this morning at Stony Brook. We gave highlights of this budget. We did actually increase the TAP funding to $125,000 for any student who could qualify, whose parents make less than $125,000 a year. And yes, part of the DACA also, we passed free education for some of the students who qualify.
Thank you.
I would like everyone to know, a budget process is a very different thing than a standalone legislation. Standalone legislation comes in, whether first to the Senate or Assembly, and it comes to the floor, we take a vote on it, then the Assembly takes a vote on something, if it's very similar, then identical bill, and then after that it goes to the executive for his signature. The budget is very difficult, because you're working a lot of these different issues into the budget, and it's basically yes to all or no to all. And as I started before and I said, this is not a perfect budget, but everyone has to understand that we all have to come to the table, we all have to give something and take something to be able to deliver. If we don't get to that point, we are really driving ourselves to a shutdown, and that's not something that we would want to deliver to our residents. We are your voices, and we try to carry that in Albany and be that advocate for you, but we're also expected to be reasonable and to work together and to get things done. And that's what this budget has done.
Thank you.
And just really quick, I know that you were talking, that it was referencing the DREAM Act. So it's not like you could just come from Europe or any other place to drop in and then get access to TAP. What we did was allow students who, some of these kids don't even know that they're undocumented. They were born and raised in this country. They were here because it's a time requirement. You have to be here for a certain amount of years. So all of a sudden these kids are applying to college and they're realizing that they don't have a social security number because they're not citizens. And so this was a big problem that was happening, especially here on Long Island. Some of these valedictorians are finding out that they are undocumented. And so we just allowed them to be able to have access to TAP. And they have to have a certain amount of GPA, they have to have no criminal record. There's a lot of rules when it comes to getting access to this. And so we just want to make sure that we're leveling the playing field for them and allowing them to be, U.S. citizens, because they were here for a very long time. And some of these kids, like I said, don't even know that they were undocumented. And so this would allow them to have access to just TAP, and it's not like free tuition.
Thank you. So someone wants to say special thanks to Assemblywoman Szilagyi for signing the letter against the Williams pipeline. And then it's a follow-up, and I don't know that, oh, well, it says, why haven't Senators Kaplan and Kaminsky, or Supervisor Gillen, taken a stand against the Williams pipeline? So since Senator Kaplan, you're the only one here.
Again, that's something that I'm really doing my due diligence and trying to learn more about it. In order for that really to work, we have to understand that we work with PSEG and LIPA, different areas. We want to make sure that our residents have gas for their stove, have warm water, hot water to be able to use the hot water. There's a lot that goes into our legislation, and we have to make sure that we're looking at all different aspects of this. I actually also took a tour of PSEG this morning, and they showed me how the gas that comes in through the pipelines that goes throughout the Nassau County, and how it really tries to have backups so that we don't get in a situation that we can't really give that service to our residents.
That was my question, if I could just follow up with that. First of all,
30 seconds.
Yeah. Thank you, Assemblywoman Szilagyi, for your moral courage. She was one of 3 elected officials in Nassau County who had the courage to sign that letter against the Williams pipeline. National Grid, due to a profit motive, is pushing a mythology that we need this pipeline for the Elmont redevelopment project. And Williams has a horrendous record for safety. If there's an explosion after that pipeline gets approved, Senator, how will you feel if you didn't take a stand against it? This is a huge mythology that we need this pipeline. The Public Service Commission of the state of New York says that it's not correct. There have been reports and research done. We would be happy to meet with you and share them with you. And again, we have reached out to Senator Kaminsky, we've reached out to Senator Kaplan, and neither one of them have taken a position, but they can. By May 15th, by May 16th, the governor of the state of New York can reject the Williams pipeline, but he needs to hear from his senators. Okay. And if you want any information on the Williams pipeline, I can put you back there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going to sort of shift gears now. We're going to talk a little bit about some issues as you drive the streets. What can be done about posters on poles along Elmont Road and Hempstead Turnpike? We'll start there. What can be done about those? So that would be, I suspect, the department of it.
I gotta go, my daughter has a soccer game. Look, from the police department side, some of them poles are privately owned. Some are owned by the county, some are owned by the state, some are owned by LIPA or PSEG. So they're not supposed to be posted on there. We do remove them when we get them and told about them. But you look at the poles, they're all over the place. They just keep stapling them on top of stapling on top of stapling. So if my cops would spend all day taking them down. It's more of we try to stay on top of it, we address it when it's brought to our attention, but it becomes more of an issue that it's just, there's a pole everywhere, and now they take it where it's glued onto the pole, and you don't come off that easy. So it's a tough thing. We'll stay on top of it, we'll give it a little bit more attention.
That's one of my questions.
Sure.
Especially on Elmont Road. I'm a senior citizen, and I walk up and down that road putting those posters on. So you're I might get a divorce if you can't get it done. But I don't think I need.
You don't need it.
No, I think it's awful, right? You pull them off, and the next day, especially last week down Elmont Road, from Linden Boulevard all the way up to Hempstead Turnpike, nothing was signed. And I go, we're going down, and you're saying there's nothing to be done about it.
No, there's not. There is something. We catch the person doing it. They can't put it on private property. So we would have to go speak to the phone company, the LIPA, DSE&G, whoever owns that pole. We usually stop them from doing it, and then we try to take it down. But look, it goes on in the back streets too with garage sales and backyard sales, and they start putting them up and running for office, and they start sticking them into the grounds and stuff like that. So it becomes a problem for us. Not you guys. Not other guys.
There's a telephone number on those posters, right?
Yep.
And they were trying to call that number.
Yeah, and when you call them, they usually go to some kind of answering service that starts the process. They're not the actual people who hung the sign up.
Okay. Thank you.
But we will try. I promise.
Okay, thank you very much, because that's a very important issue. It just defaces the community in a way that's unpleasant. Question for the town, and it's this. What has the Gillen administration done to update the zoning and spur economic development along Hempstead Turnpike? Is there someone here who might want to?
State road.
Well, that is a state road, but the zoning on that road is a town matter.
The legislation that was passed was not recent. It's probably about 5 years old at this time. The Hempstead Turnpike overlay districts, there are 4 distinct different districts. I happen to be one of the commissioners of them. It kind of sets the field for different kinds of uses for redevelopment purposes. So far, not much has come up as far as going into utilize the zoning. We've only had usually redevelopments of gas stations or other things that we can't force them to build, but we want them to build. But they've set the playing field there so that if a developer can come in and buy out some of the smaller properties to make a new development, it's kind of paved the way for mixed uses in some cases, higher or lower density depending on the district area. So there is some stuff that is already on the books, it just has not been utilized as of yet.
I see. Okay, thank you. This is for sanitation. Why are the streets not swept more often in Elmont?
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. But street sweeping is the highway department. It's not sanitation. Sanitation picks up garbage, recycling, e-waste.
Yeah, but you don't pick up the stuff you drop off the back of the truck. There isn't a broom on any truck to pick it up when you drive.
The supervisors have brooms and shovels in their car. They're supposed to be alerted to from a crew if they break anything, and the crew's supposed to pull the office. As far as the street sweeping, that's the highway department. So I don't know.
Could you, well, let me just hold on for a second. I have been bludgeoned invisibly to you about not standing, or me not demanding that we stand up front here. So when you speak, would you please stand?
Thank you.
Thank you. That saves my neck.
April 30th, the town of Hempstead sweeping schedule will start. The sweepers will be out there, of course, on schedule as time demands. April 30th, start date. Yes. For the sweepers. They don't sweep on Wednesday.
So the street sweeping begins on March 8th. April 30th, and goes until?
Goes all the way until October.
And how often do they, say, traverse a particular street?
Each map is different. It goes by town, so some maps take 3-4 days to do, and some maps take 2 days.
And in Elmont, which is why we're here, how often are the streets swept in Elmont?
Twice or 3 times a month.
2 or 3 times a month?
Yes.
Twice a month. Okay, I think from this question what we're asking is that the streets be swept a little more frequently. And the reason, one of the reasons that this is an interesting question even to me, the moderator, who should be fair and balanced, is the fact that I get phone calls from local representatives asking me and asking others to participate in some community cleanup activity, which in fact is street sweeping. And the last time I checked my tax bill, I don't know about all of you, I really shouldn't have to volunteer to sweep the streets. I'm paying a hell of a lot of money to do it. And I think I speak for all of us.
You guys have any problems as far as complaints in the town of Hempstead? Town of Hempstead has a lovely phone number you can call. 489-6000. I don't work up in that department.
So that's wonderful.
Our stormwater basins are filled with garbage. We just went there, there's tires all over the side. Any resident is free to go over there right now. It's behind Home Depot, right in the back streets, filled with thousands of bottles in our water.
You're talking about that side street right here?
Absolutely.
I was just there 2 days ago.
Hold on. We were in the newspaper talking about it. We called on our officials. We called on Nassau County. We called on anybody that could help us. And it still has the same 4 toxic tires in our water recharge basins. That water recharge basin brings water into our homes. We shower in that water, and nobody has listened to us. Can anybody up there, Public Works, Town of Hempstead Sanitation, advise the community why we have to deal with plastic bottles, garbage, and carcinogen in our water recharge basin? Can anybody do that? Can anybody do that?
Excuse me.
Yes.
And
okay, hold.
There needs to be some coordination. If I live on Greenway Boulevard, which is adjacent to Southern State Parkway,
okay,
I call you guys all the time. Now, when I call, you'll come out because there's no houses across the street. There's a grassy knoll. If they clean the grass, they don't sweep the streets at the same time. So, you know, I might have the street cleaning maybe a month or so later. There needs to be some coordination. Even with the state, there's a fence there, and across the street from the fence, which is adjacent to Southern State, that's the state. Work with them. So I have 3 entities that I need to call. Plus, like you, I'm trying to pick up trash so my neighborhood won't look so bad. It's ridiculous. Look at Linden Boulevard, that whole intersection. It's horrible. No trash cans, nothing for the kids.
Okay, the point's taken. And may I will take this follow-up just on our behalf. We're here not to pass the buck, right? We're here not to say who's supposed to sweep Linden Boulevard or who's supposed to sweep Elmont Road. We want this message taken back that says there is a problem in Elmont and the residents pay taxes. They don't care who is supposed to sweep Elmont Road and who is not. They just want the message taken back that we need our streets cleaned, regardless of who is particularly responsible for the block between X Street and Y Street. That's all. So we don't need a defense of why Elmont Road isn't swept, because it's not my responsibility, it's somebody else's.
Excuse me.
Okay, now we're moving on to the next question, but we have some busy time going on. I will get back to you. I'm not trying to ignore you.
You got it.
For the sanitation department, we need enforcement of this. We need enforcement with regard to store owners. We need those store owners to keep their storefronts clean. Who is responsible for enforcing those responsibilities, whether it be on Hempstead Turnpike, Elmont Road, Meacham Avenue, Dutch Broadway? It may actually be 7 different organizations, but we need to know how we get that done.
Those are the first 2.
Basically, we'll have to speak on behalf of Code Enforcement, Town of Hempstead Sanitation and Merrick. They are responsible, store owners are responsible for the sidewalk adjacent to them, and I believe it was like 6 feet into the street. We have coordinated with them on some street sweeps when we go down for quality of life issues. If there are specific areas, we are all complaint driven. The town is a very large municipality. You can call the helpline 489-6000, or you can call directly to the Code Enforcement Division. I believe it's 378 4200, 4210. There you can get to the actual Code Enforcement personnel there. Generally, we try not to beat them up, but we do give them a notice of violation and tell them, listen, you have to keep the front of the store clean. And usually they get the hint. If they don't get the hint, they do get a court appearance. Again, this week you will get some grease, so if you have particularly bad places, call those numbers and report it, and they will send people out to check it out.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The next question is, apparently this is, well, okay, let me just get the question. What are you doing to keep us safe from the fire departments who rob us? How will you protect us from them? I have no idea what that is. I think I'll just let that one sit. I'm not even going to ask for that to be answered, but apparently there was something going on there, so that we need to take care of. Someone took the time to write that question down, and that person ought to be, they ought to be addressed.
Listen, I know where the question comes from. I won't call her out. The individual believes that, and when I say believes, it's something that has to be shown and proved that a house was, by the fire department, was during a fire. They robbed stuff out of our home. That's being investigated. Our internal affairs unit is looking at it, and they will continue to look at it. Just recently, it was given to an inspector, and actually a chief in our department who's looking at it, Chief Sewell, and looking to investigate that. I hope that answers the question. And I love the fire department, by the way.
Thank you. We have a question. And this question is interesting. Okay. Are you concerned about the huge expansion of Belmont with traffic and crime? And I suspect that this might go to our Assemblywoman Salage first.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think I've been one of the most, aside from Legislator Salage, one of the most vocal individuals as to the redevelopment of Belmont and looking at just how the size and scope of the project keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so definitely we're having conversations, because just the other day, if you look at my Instagram stories, I was sitting at like 4 o'clock, I was sitting in so much traffic on the Cross Island. And I do have to quote one of our great community leaders, Tammy Williams, saying, imagine if I had to take my child to Cone Hospital, LIJ, and I had to drive the Cross Island. It would be nearly impossible. And so definitely, and it is, it is. So I definitely have that concern. I'm not shy about expressing that concern. And definitely, a full service train station will help mitigate the problem, but we definitely, need to have a realistic conversation as to the development of Belmont Parking, which we're having. And so, I'm not convinced, about this proposal's redevelopment, and we still really need to talk about the size and scope of it.
I'll jump in on the traffic side, and we're doing traffic studies with the DPW and the vendor as the project develops. On the criminal, or let's say hopefully not criminal side of things, we're looking at the security. We're going to do assessments with them, cameras and lighting and everything that is proper for us to make sure that we don't have people hanging in places they shouldn't be, or congregating, or other criminal elements to be there. So we'll be working closely. Your inspector is here tonight, Jimmy Butcher. We'll be working very closely with the vendor as they are moving forward with the project to make sure everything is put into place, continue to keep you safe. By the way, crime in Elmont is down 17% this year. So we're going in the right direction. We want to keep it going that way, not the other way.
Follow-up question?
Thank you, Inspector. Well, just let me, I will, but just want to thank you for preempting the question about the state of crime in Elmont. So thank you for preempting it. Go ahead, sir.
Well, Patrick, you and your team do a great job with the 5th Precinct, so thank you for that. But I just wanted to say, do you have the resources to accommodate the project, the scope of the Belmont project?
So absolutely we have to expand. There's a couple of things that and the fire service will tell you. One of the things that we get stressed on the most is calls for service on our ambulance. Our police medics are over serviced right now. The fire service is on great demand, and there's privatization that's gone. In that development, there will be private ambulance service that will be a part of that contract. As far as security, they're going to have to hire their own security. We're not going to be responsible for what goes on the grounds there, but we are responsible for crime that's committed on those grounds. So we are going to enforce that they bring in their own private security, technology. We'll have access to our new Intel Center that's being built in the police academy. So we'll be on top of that, but can we use more? Absolutely. And as that's going on, we are now in the process of contractual negotiations with our unions, and some of that is expanding what we call the head count, to bring the head count higher, because population has gotten larger in Nassau County. We're now 1.4, which used to be 1.3. So an extra 100,000 people, there's stress that comes with that to our services. So yes, we are pushing that with the county exec, and she's fully aware of it, working towards a solution.
Particularly with the 5th Precinct, though, right?
Particularly with the 5th.
Okay.
Like I said last night, we added an additional pop cop back. So every precinct gets an additional pop cop on June on the graduation of the new class. Besides the new cops that come here, we're adding an additional pop cop into the program. So each precinct now will have 3 that used to have 2.
Thank you. This question is about, well, we have a multitude of discarded and aging trees. What can be done to assist residents with the removal and replacement?
The town of Hempstead no longer cuts down trees. It is the homeowner's responsibility. The town was passed back in 2016.
We didn't put them in there.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, let's...
For any tree that's diseased, dying, we'll send out the county arborists. They'll investigate the tree. The county will remove that tree. As far as replacement of trees, they're done one of 2 ways. There is a tree program in place for the county. I'm the director of traffic engineering, so I'm a little out of my element, so I'll apologize for this now. But as far as large-scale replacement, we do streetscape projects. As part of streetscape projects, we do look to replan and facilitate other amenities along the roadway when we're doing it. Our roadways within this area, as you're well aware, Elmont Road, Dutch Broadway, Corona Avenue, those are the primary roadways through here that we're in charge of.
Okay, thank you. The highway department, when filling potholes, why is it that you don't use hot asphalt? I'm not sure what that is. When the pothole is repaired with cold asphalt and not sealed with liquid asphalt, one good rain and the hole is back.
We do use hot patch.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
We do use hot patch. We have boxes that go out every day that cover this area, town of Hempstead roads. We do seal them as time goes on, but unfortunately when we do it, due to the cold weather now that it's warming up, the roads pop. And when that happens, we go back out and we do it again.
Excuse me. Can I?
Is that a follow-up to that question?
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
I'm the one that put
that
in.
Go ahead.
What they use is cold patch. It's not hot asphalt. I've worked with hot asphalt for 32 years. Just because you take cold patch and put it in a hot box doesn't make it hot asphalt. What that is called road right. You can dig it up with a shovel. Once you put it in, it doesn't get hard and it doesn't seal. You can use liquid asphalt all times of the year because we do it in the city all year long. You don't seal the pothole, so the water goes under. It's called a pop-up. The water goes under. When it freezes, it pushes it right up. Not only that, what you're using it's inferior. It's once it rains, the stuff that keeps it elastic just washes right out. So it's like job security. You put a pothole in, it rains, you're back again. So instead of filling the hole 10 times, Why don't you get hot asphalt, clean it out, you're supposed to clean it out, they just throw it in with the water, you're supposed to clean it out, blow it out, seal it, and keep the water from going in. Then we won't have to call back and forth over and over, just one time.
Can we get your resume?
Yes, I second that suggestion. Okay. Another question. We need the exit from the Cross Island to Hampstead Turnpike. The Cross Island, the exit from the Cross Island to Hampstead Turnpike cleaned up on a regular basis. Who's responsible for that?
So, Cross Island Parkway.
Could you please stand? They want to get my head.
You have a direction on Cross Island Parkway?
I guess if you don't want Cross Island Parkway,
I'll take that back with me. I can speak with the resident engineer. And,
I asked a question.
Sure.
Coming off the Cross Island, coming on to Hempstead Turnpike, it's 26B.
Yeah.
It's always still 25. The only time it's clean is when we have something going on at the raceway.
So I just discovered that the New York State DOT regional director lives in Valley Stream. So I've been at her door harassing her about this. And now I know where she lives, so I'm gonna make sure. The other day they were out cleaning it, so I go to her house constantly. So I know that like on the interchange when you're driving south down Cross Island and you go onto the southern state, they're looking to clean that, but they had to cut the bushes. So the first aspect of the project was to just cut the bushes, and then now they're going to clean it. But unfortunately, due to the winter, it's hard to get out there. So they said that they were going to clean it sooner than later. So I know that that. But if they don't clean it within a week, I'm gonna go crazy on them. For instance, like the barracks on the southern state, the state police left, and so they left the barracks just like abandoned it. And now there's graffiti on it. It's disgusting. A car hit it. And so I actually, in conversations, I suggested to them, why don't they make this a welcome center for Long Island, for the southern state? And so we're actively talking about it. I'm going to be pushing this in the next budget to see if they can make that some sort of welcome center or some sort of rest stop, whatever it be, but it can't be in the condition. It has graffiti on it. I said that's unacceptable. It's offensive to me that they would leave graffiti like that on a community on a state road. And so we are cleaning up the state areas in conjunction with the city. So if you have something, please feel free to call my office. We're trying to get it done. But I'm in Albany most of the time. Usually I'm out there looking. But I'm in Albany, so right now. So please if you see it, let me know. But I'm gonna make sure that gets cleaned. And if it's not clean, I'm gonna go to her house again. He might be arresting me.
And please don't go to a house.
I'm not telling them. That's why.
Also speaking about Southern State and Cross Island, exit 25B. Have they come out there, they cut it, and
yes.
and everything else that you're speaking
What
about?
the page? No, I'm not cognizant. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So you're talking about exit 25B getting off it's between Belt Parkway and the Cross Island onto Elmont Road. So they actually just recently had that clean. I harassed New York City DOT to get that done. It went from a lot of back and forth between whether it was state responsibility or city responsibility, but it's definitely city responsibility. We got them to clean it out. We're hoping that it'll be a regular basis. I worked with Tammy on this. We were going back and forth for a couple of months. So if you ever see it dirty, please reach out to our offices. I'm from Senator Todd Kaminsky's office. So that definitely was cleaned up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Cambria Heights Civic is having their meeting tonight. So New York City DOT is there now, and we sent them a list of all the areas that are theirs, which is there's the chain link fence along Cross Island. Those bags that brush against there, they'll clean that. Going on to the Bell Parkway from Linden Boulevard, they'll clean that. Just follow up again with Todd's office, and we'll stay on top of and New York City. But anything that borders us, that's New York City. All right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Is Elmont special parking rules still active? That's part A. And it's the reason for the question is we have noticed, the person says I have noticed, but we have noticed a lot of commercial vehicles parked in Elmont overnight, very often in residential streets. Who do we speak to, call about these issues, number one? And why is there no real enforcement around these issues? Who gets that question?
I think that's me. I don't need the mic.
We're only on private property. Private property, it's also public roads.
On the public streets, we enforce the no parking where there's no parking signs or where there's no parking areas. So we will, if you get those areas to the third, the lieutenant, to the fifth, the lieutenant is here. We'll make sure that we make the extra enforcement out there starting tonight.
But that's about in the residential area where there's some commercial parking.
I'm residential.
Residential area, it doesn't say no parking on a residential street, and that's where you're seeing some commercial vehicles parked overnight.
Yes, but there is an ordinance and it is posted, there's no parking of commercial vehicles between.
Right, but that's right, but they're still doing it. It's happening.
That's townwide, so on any street.
Right, so the enforcement of it then, because like I have a neighbor who has a big moving truck and constantly parks it on a corner overnight. And I keep calling the police and say, look, this commercial vehicle, that's even dangerous for someone that's coming down the other street, they can't even see to turn into the block.
I agree. Before you leave, speak to the lieutenant and we'll take care of it. All right?
Okay. Is this regarding the parking?
Yeah, I live over by Belmont Racetrack. Years ago, they used to enforce the they used to enforce the no parking. That has not been enforced for years. I do call the police.
Can't hear.
Park in front of my house. They will come and ticket. Then the person gets the ticket.
All the no parking should be enforced. It doesn't have to be in front of your house. If it's in a no parking area, you call, speak to the lieutenant before we leave, and we'll get it done. Promise.
Right. This question really revolved around permits and so forth. Tell me how to say permits. Okay. Still park. Yeah. All right.
We're on the private property only.
Like Wellington, Locust Woods.
No, but any on-the-street parking is enforced by the.
But they have like a sign that says it has to have a permit in order to park for like, like during the day. And, I haven't seen like anyone enforce that parking. In years. Yeah, and you need like a special
All by the park area, right, Jimmy? We'll take care of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll follow up.
Is this around the parking issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please. So I cannot understand why I have to call the precinct when we have officers patrolling and they see. Why can't they just enforce the rules? That is my problem.
Well, that's a good question, and yes, I guess officers should
just enforce it.
Should enforce the law.
It's not. Look, there's 177 cops on patrol for the entire county, and there's 1.3 to 1.4 million people out there. It's a lot of eyes out there. We rely on you to tell us about these complaints. We rely on you so we can see it and pick them out. If I had to go, I couldn't get cops to cover every single block during the course of the night. Because remember, ambulance calls, we do over 1 million calls for service a year. 365,000 car stops, 45 arrests a day. Takes a lot of resources out of there. But
you know what? I agree with you. All I'm saying is, one per night.
I got you.
I mean, come on. These guys are parked in the same place every single night. Every single day. And nothing is done. That's my beef. I don't expect you to go and patrol the whole Elmont.
I got you.
That's
I
all
got
I'm
you.
saying. But these guys should see it because it's there.
We'll make that note.
Okay, wow. That's an amazing moment.
He's right. You're right.
There is a tractor trailer on Hempstead Turnpike.
Yeah.
When is it going to be removed?
Sometime the cab is gone.
Hold my phone for like 3-4 days. Yeah, I took my little. You guys are there, but it's just
This is a, okay, the next is not really a question, but maybe we should just say something about it because I think I know the answer, but maybe the person. What are the rules around parking outside of your house, of your residence? Are there any rules? Prolonged parking of a number of days, preventing you from parking before in front of your residence. Is there some rule to that?
So from the police department, if it's not a posted non-parking sign, if it's not an overnight issue, and you live on that block or you live in that community, you can park your car on that street. Many people park a car and don't move it for weeks, you know, for many reasons. And whether they take public transportation to work and it's out in front of their house. If it's legally registered, legally inspected, and it has its plates on the car, there's nothing that we can do, there's no enforcement issue. We will check the car that's been there prolonged to make sure that car's not a car that's maybe wanted in a crime, been stolen, or something of that nature. But most of the time, people do leave their cars and they don't move for days.
Can I just follow up on that, Aubrey? Can I
yes.
just, this is about, I live in South Road Park in Chelsea. However, in the morning time, I go down Chelsea, either on Rocket, Marguerite, or Herbert. And you have people park right by the hydrant, and it sticks out into Chelsea. Sometimes the school buses can't turn, and it's been happening for about 3-4 years. And there's one car in particular, blue car, that sticks out almost half into Chelsea. And I don't see, usually there used to be a patrol car a couple of years ago giving tickets. We don't see them anymore.
Okay.
Jump in, Jim!
Can I just, I don't want to take from the commissioner's time, a couple of things. One is for the no commercial parking over the past several weeks. Each night we've been going out, we have been doing enforcement on no commercial parking. In terms, one of the other things that hasn't come up yet, but I imagine it will, is people are talking about, we've been getting complaints about people leaving cones in the roadway to kind of try and preserve. I told my officers, try and speak to the people at the house, let them know they can't leave cones or cement blocks or anything in the road. And we're going to just take that stuff out because it's a road hazard. All right, so we are going to be removing those cones from the roadway. Parking enforcement is up. It will continue to be up. The Reverend just told me over by Bridge, by the high school, there's a concern in the back streets by the high school of people doing illegal U-turns or dangerous U-turns because they may be legal. So we're going to address that as well. Right? Our overall enforcement for summons activity is up, but hearing numbers isn't going to make you happy. What I will tell you is we will be out there. We'll be doing enforcement on non-commercial parking on the overnight hours. Just because we write tickets, unfortunately, they don't move their trucks. You know, they don't move their vans, they don't move their school buses, they don't move the other things. We'll continue the enforcement. I can promise you that.
Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-up
On the overnight parking?
Yeah. Would Elmont ever consider a zoning where after certain hours cars can't be parked on the street?
All cars?
All cars.
That's a question. I don't think we can answer that question.
Let the Yankee fan.
Is that an answer to the lady's question?
No, that's not finished.
Okay, she's not finished. Hold on.
Well, could you have any special accommodations, especially if you need that accommodation for bus pickups and stuff like that in front of your home?
You know, generally because Elmont is not a village, we don't have a lot of jurisdiction over what happens in our streets. And the lady that could answer some of those questions had to leave early. A reasonable excuse. Her child was performing somewhere, so we'll have to let that go for now. Is that okay?
Yeah.
But the question is noted.
I came from a village. I lived in Valley Springs, so I know of that. And now I'm over on this side. It's so different. It's just drives me nuts.
Don't move back to a village. You look like a lovely person. Please stay there. So the next, I'm sorry, sir. The Yankee hat.
Can't hear you.
We have a problem in that street.
Can't hear. Sir, what are you saying?
I will repeat.
People that don't live on that street come in there and with their drug activities sit there and smoke their weed, right? And when you call the precinct and you give them the description of the vehicle, it takes sometimes like over an hour, and by the time they show up, they're gone, right?
Okay, so you're talking about you want more prompt responses from the police department when we call, especially with drug enforcement issues. Is that it? Okay.
Because I remember my neighbor here that called one time, on occasion, and they busted these guys with over 2 or 3 pounds of weed. So if it wasn't because of him and myself, you know, they would have done away with that.
He should be in the witness protection program.
Say again? I don't know if I'm going to answer that one.
You know, we have condoms all the time. Condoms.
So you're having a problem with people congregating on your block?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how we'll address it.
It takes an hour to get there.
No, so let me explain how it works.
And you say you want eyes, but the eyes are calling.
I know that. And so in any emergency response time in this county, and the data shows it with 3 to 5 minutes response. Emergency. Remember, baby choking, house fire, auto accident, somebody trapped. Auto accident with fender bender, we got to take them in priority. And not that your call is not as important as everybody else, but we have to respond to those that.
I understand, but sometimes I feel like I'm paying the ass.
No, you're not. You're not.
Then they know your voice, you know. But we pay taxes, we live there.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't want something people to know. It's annoying. Every other night there's a park there.
So continue to call. We're going to talk to see if we can increase response over there. And understand is that it depends on what's on the call, what's on the calendar. And I promise you, you'll see a difference there. I promise.
Okay.
Right?
We're moving on. We have to keep moving. Grab the mic for me, Fendi. Okay, I'm moving on. Why do we have to pay school taxes when we have okay, my fault. Why do we have to pay school taxes when we have small businesses? We are already paying school taxes for our homes. Yeah, it actually is an interesting question, but probably not one to be answered here. I used to be a school board member, and the answer to that question is, your small business is a separate entity from you, the individual, and both the small business and the individual have to pay taxes. Okay. Wow, on occasion I can actually answer a question. I'm the moderator, by the way. This is a very specific question. It's about a house on Oakwood that has been declared unsafe. I have the address, I'm not going to state it. And so the person wants to know several questions. Is the home in foreclosure? Is there an owner? How long does the owner have to really rectify the condition? So there is this question about a home on Oakwood Place, and maybe someone can answer that just broadly for the person.
I'm not familiar with that particular address. We have about 800 cases currently, which is down. We were up to about 2,000 prior to the foreclosure crisis. But I'm not sure of the status. It's not on my 20-day list, so I don't think we have it on a condemnation sheet. It was probably found over and abandoned, or it was over-occupied, and we had it vacated. I'll take a look into it, though, if the constituent who was talking about it wants to speak to me about it afterwards.
Sure, and I'll be happy to share the exact address of that place with you privately.
That was my question.
Use the microphone.
Basically, I want to know, what's the time frame? Because it has on the notice, that's stuck on the wall, notice to vacate of unsafe 11/21/18.
Okay, well, not knowing the circumstances, I have to look into it. When we have a homeowner that's living in an unfit premises, constitutionally, we cannot tell that person that they must leave. We cannot physically bar them from taking occupancy. We can only write them a summons. If it's a homeowner, when it's a situation of squatters or holdover tenants from foreclosure or whatever
Even
else.
when it's been deemed unsafe, it says do
When
not
it's, well, there's
enter.
two different things. There's unfit and there's unsafe. If the poster says unsafe, that means that we found it open and abandoned. We have to use the microphone. If it says unfit, that means that we found that people were living there with no heat, electricity, water, blocked egresses, or whatever living conditions were not up to par.
All right, I'll speak to you later, because I made a photo of the notice that's on the door, so you can see it.
Yes, not a problem at all. Like I said, I send out all the letters, but I don't do all the inspections. We only try and, again, we triage also. The worst of the worst is what we have to take down.
Abandoned house.
Understood. Understood. We still have some, believe me, it's a lot better than it was a couple years ago, but, and they say a rising economy floats all boats. We're starting to see that now because the banks are actually moving on foreclosures where they were dragging their feet before. They were waiting for a market rebound too. So now that the housing prices are up and the stock is low, they're going to move a lot quicker on these foreclosures. So hopefully it all moves through and things get back to normal.
Okay, thank you. The next question is about someone who lived in Elmont during better times. The street sweeping schedule used to be 2 times a week. Why is it now 2 times a month? Well, it's twice a month, and I guess I can preface it by saying we know that there is less money, but the taxpayer is paying more money. So I don't think we should. The question needed to be in the public's domain, so it's not really a question an answer required, but just noting that observation.
Excuse me.
Yes.
But I want to add something to that question.
Sure.
What I'd like to know is whether or not they take into account where there are food facilities, that those areas surrounding a food chain like Taco Bell or McDonald's or whatever, the streets adjacent to those places should be cleaned on a more regular basis. I pick up McDonald's. I live across the street from Taco Bell. I live right here. I pick up Taco Bell, Checkers, McDonald's. So now I'm going to wind up with Chipotle stuff. All the time. Are those areas given extra consideration for extra cleaning area?
I'd like to add to her situation and say that I live across the street from a school, and it's spring.
Yeah.
Those young people are going to be out with their cars and eating and leaving things at the curb. So yeah, we do need something interesting happening there. So the next question is a complaint about opioids. It's a complaint about opioid problems, and why are we not increasing the amount of training around Narcan?
I'll take that from the police department side. We are. Every one of our police officers is trained in Narcan. Every one of our police medics are. All your fire services are. And there's been numerous communities that receive Narcan training. We have, I'll bet you there's 5 or 6 people in here that carry Narcan right now. My wife carries Narcan. I don't have anybody in my family that has an addictive issue, but she wanted to carry and got the training for that reason. So we do it, the fire departments do it, the county does it, the towns do it. You can call my office tomorrow. We'll set you up in any one of those places that you can get that Narcan training. And thank you for asking that question, because we need that help out there.
And my office also has Narcan training.
Well,
We have Narcan training, so like we have like forums where you come and learn how to do it. And so I know Legislator Slodge did one with you just the other day, so we can have another one within the next 2 months.
Well, I need an update because I took it back 2 years ago.
If it expired, we'll get you a new one. They may make you do a little bit of training again, just so you know the new ones have changed in the way they do it. But we'll get you a new one. Well, everybody's. Listen, one thing about heroin, it does not know any race, any color, any religion. It just wants to get into that bloodstream.
okay, this is a question around criminal justice and criminal justice reform.
I'll throw the reform now.
And this relates to in the case of malicious prosecution and police misconduct, is there a commission for? It's hard to read this, but I am assuming is there a commission for some form of redress?
Yes. So any complaint that's taken to the police department, in any way you want to give it, we'll take it. We come to your home, you can come to a police booth, we can go to the station house. Our supervisors are not allowed to say, no, we can't take the report, you got to come to us. We go to you when it comes to a complaint. With that, we start what's called a blue team. And a blue team is treated at the highest level. A chief runs what's called our professional standards unit. And under that is the internal affairs unit. So Chief Sewell, who's responsible, oversees that umbrella, and we take every single complaint that comes in. It's then taken, addressed, investigated, and there is a committee, discipline review board, that doles out the penalties that are done. I just signed one today where we gave a guy 50 days. So we took 50 days of his pay away because of something that he did was not appropriate in his work. And it had nothing to do with misconduct, or it's just not following the rules and regulations. So we're very strict on it, and we do follow through.
Thank you. This question is about, I see we're bouncing around as a real conversation. When are they going to beautify Hampstead Turnpike? How many times do they sweep Elmont Road from Dutch Broadway to Linden? I think we know that it's 2 times a month that the streets in Elmont are swept, right?
For 4 months, not even for the whole year.
So that's it. And the beautification of Hampstead Turnpike is I suspect, an ongoing project of some sort.
Can I just follow up?
Yes, please.
It's not just the streets, but the storefronts.
That's right.
Okay.
They are so, if I can somehow get it coordinated.
The storefronts are actually the responsibility of the store proprietor or owner.
Yeah, but is there any enforcement? Because they really.
I don't know, but there is an organization in Elmont called the Elmont Chamber of Commerce. And they should, this is an opinion, and they should try to involve themselves more tightly with both the community and the businesses. So if they do that, maybe they can encourage their members to keep their storefronts clean. So maybe you want to address that question to the Elmont Chamber of Commerce.
People are not even members of.
And we have a hand raised at the back, Mimi Johnson.
Yes. So just so for those that works in the town that was not here 20 whatever years ago, the street sweepers used to also do the parking lots because those are town parking lots. Okay. So I just want to understand, why is it that 20 some odd years ago, street sweepers used to be on county roads, state roads, the parking lots, and now we're getting just twice a month and just in our local streets. So those town parking lots used to go around at night, because now it's not a problem for me now, but it was back then, because I used to say, why are they sweeping now? Early in the morning before the cars come. So the schedules have changed, our taxes are still being paid, Why is it changed?
They have crews that go out on Wednesdays,
So have you cut down on the
Fridays.
crews?
Huh?
Have you cut down on the crews?
No.
Okay, so if we have to cut down on the crews, that means we should still get the same service as we used to get 20 years ago.
It's the same amount of sweepers that go out. There's 4 of them.
But there's not the same type of cleaning.
But obviously
Elmont
there's a
has
problem.
become dirty. We loved it when it was clean 20 years ago, and we would like it to stay clean now. So you really don't have to give me an answer. Just go back to the office and say Elmont wants it clean. We want
Take
clean.
note of that and I will tell you.
In addition to the complaint around street sweeping, etc., it's a cooperative effort. I know that on my block, for instance, even though the street sweeping schedule is posted and published, and I do read it, people still leave their cars in the street on the day that the street sweeper is going to be there. So maybe we should empower street sweepers, as they do in New York City, to put those ugly stickers on people's windshields. We're talking about the cars on the street, you know. Now, exactly. And that's what I was alluding to. Actually, I didn't think I alluded to it. That's what I said directly. That if we are going to get our streets swept, and if we're going to beat on the persons responsible for it, there's also a responsibility on our part, and that is to make sure that on those days that the streets are to be swept, that our cars are not an obstacle to sweeping. Well, yes, I'm not using the word our as if it's my car. I am saying that cars parked on that street should be either removed by the persons owning them, or the street sweeping, that process should also include something to the effect of those ugly stickers that they have in New York City.
I just want to decide on because
there's a question in the back. A follow-up question where?
Right there.
Go ahead.
Right here. Okay, and that was my question. What are they doing to enforce the necessary parking on the street where half the time your driveway is blocked? We have like so many cars. And that too is a problem with the street sweeping. So they need to do something about enforcing all these cars that are parked, and they're supposed to be parked certain times, they're supposed to have stickers. That is not being done. We could get a lot of income with that, if they start writing tickets.
Yes, as opposed to $110 for jaywalking. Okay, next question. Let me hold.
Can you stick on the windows?
We don't physically do that. That's part of code enforcement. Back to her question, we do have sweepers that go out at 6 o'clock in the morning that do the parking fields. There is a crew that does it.
Okay, well, we need to do it on my block. I'll tell you where that is. Could the residents... Okay, so this is a suggestion, and I think a very good one. Can residents have access to political maps? Now, what they're saying is that they would like to have a map of where each representative represents, so that they could know better who their representative was. Can I have this lady move to the back again, please? Officer. Yes. Would that, now the question, of course, I think it's a good idea. Those maps are readily available on the internet as one place. And I was just told by a member of I was told by a resident that you can come to the library and get that map also. I'm afraid that if we put that map on a flyer and stick it in your mailbox, you may shred it before you look at it.
And also Supervisor Gillen actually put up like a map, an interactive map, where you can see who has jurisdiction on the roads. It's actually a really great resource.
Yes.
So she's the first supervisor to do that. So you can go to the Town of Hempstead website and you can look at what road is under which jurisdiction. And so that's, and it tells you the phone number as well. So, it's really good.
Yeah, that information is already out there, and kind of tough to print paper to just get that over again. Okay, there's a question now for State Rep. Do you support a single-payer healthcare system? And when will you be meeting with Senator Rivera to get some action on this bill?
As a member of the Health Committee, I voted several times with the committee for the New York Health Act. I'm a sponsor of the bill. I believe that health care is a right for all individuals and they should have access to good quality health care. So I'm supportive of the initiative. I actually sit next to the individual who came about, Assemblyman Godfrey, who came about with the New York Health Act. So I'm supportive of it.
Thank you.
That's actually my question. It was for Senator Kaczynski or Kaplan, whichever one.
Okay, well he just arrived, so I will give him, because he just arrived, I'll give him his 2 minutes to introduce himself. And if you so desire, the question was, do you support universal health care? And if you do, when will you take some action to show that indeed you do?
Sure.
And they're going to destroy us.
Hi everybody, I'm Senator Todd Kaczynski. Thank you so much for being here. It's incredibly important that we stay in touch with the community. I'm sure you've heard this from everyone tonight, so I will just answer your specific questions, but I feel like there's so much we could all do together to improve this community and to make sure the state is directing resources and we're all working together on your behalf. So that's why having Connect to Them is very important to us. I'm the chair of the Environmental Conservation Committee, so that there's a lot we can do in terms of improving our environment here on Long Island. Very excited about. There's a lot that we can do for improving our environment. I'm the chair of the Environment Committee and hope to continue to work on those issues. We're going to do something about climate change this year, which I'm very excited about. As you see our world changing, we really have to do something about it. But I'm here to answer any questions you have. And on the healthcare issue, what to do about healthcare, I work with Senator Rivera every day. It's an important bill. We have to figure out how everyone can have access to healthcare, but ensure that it's not taking healthcare away from people who like their healthcare. So whether we're going to be having a public option, whether we're going to be talking about something more universal, these are all the right conversations to have, and something has to be done right away. So we are going to be taking action shortly. We are going to discuss within the Senate, exactly what we're going to do. I know Senator Rivera is talking to different people. He's changing the bill as we speak, but it's an incredibly important issue, and we certainly can't. Washington's not going to be doing anything to help us with healthcare. The state has to step up and do that, and I hope to be a part of that. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question comes. We have a follow-up?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Sorry. The question was just, do you support a single-payer healthcare system such as the one that you signed on to on the past years with the New York Health Act was in State Senate? And now that we actually have an opportunity to actually pass it, are you going to follow through on the commitments that you made in the years voting for that bill for the past legislature sessions?
Sure. Well, it's not the same bill anymore. The bill has been changed, and the bill as written may have impacts on our constituents, on people in this room in terms of taxes going up and maybe perhaps the health care they have not what they want anymore. It's one thing to say people need health care and don't have it and give it to them. It's another thing to tell people you may like your insurance but you can't have that anymore. So it's a concern I have. So I can't give you a full-throated commitment for anything right now other than to tell you that we want to do something to improve access to health care, to bring prices down, to make it more fair, to fight big drug companies, to make sure hospitals aren't screwing people over, insurance companies aren't screwing people. I'm part of that whole effort. But what you're asking is, well, you right now say you support this bill, and I can't do that. So my answer is not yes to you. I'm not going to try to beat around the bush. I am worried that this bill will have implications on my constituents that will involve them having a more difficult time living on Long Island and getting access to health care that they want. That doesn't mean I'm not going to work with Senator Rivera to make it an important issue, that we don't need to do something and do something radical. I'm with you on that. But I have this issue, in other places as well. People want like this bill only, no changes, take it and run with it. And now that we're in charge and we're making decisions that actually impact people's lives and their wallets and everything else, it's hard. You say to someone who is a teacher or perhaps a public employee, you're not going to get your insurance anymore. What do you think about that? They're like, what do you mean? I like my insurance. This person down the street may have bad insurance, and I want to help this person, but do I have to give them my insurance? These are legitimate questions. So I think before we're going to take the system and just flip it over, we want to be conscientious of what we're doing, and I want to be part of that effort, and I want to do something major. But I can't tell you right now that I'm for this bill no matter what, and we're going to get it through this year. I'm for doing something important, but I can't say that the bill that currently exists right now is something I'm comfortable with.
Well, I'm not asking you 100% just about this bill. I'm asking you about the single-payer healthcare system, which you signed on for as a co-sponsor for the past years, and now you're going back on your word of being for a single-payer healthcare system, which is the only way we actually get affordable healthcare and take down the rising costs in healthcare that are just going to health insurance companies. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it.
You and I have a difference of opinion about what will move healthcare. I think to have only one state without federal support decide how we're going to get lower prices, I think would be a problem in New York. I want to do whatever we can within the borders of our state to achieve the same goals you want to. I'm not sure a single payer can do it. I'm opening to listen. I'm not against it. I want to know more, but from what I've learned since the time that we've been, the bill has been changed a little bit and information has been brought to me, is that it could have adverse impacts on taxpayers in Nassau County, which I have an issue with. I'm always willing to learn. If you want to show me I'm wrong, I'll sit down at any time and try to get to where you are. I think we want to get to the same place. I think we have different routes of getting there.
I actually have a study.
Well, we can't.
Could I give this to you after? That would,
Yes, you are free to actually do that after. The next question is about it's a safety concern at Elmont Memorial High School. Apparently, there are some safety concerns with the dropping off and the picking up on Ridge Road. I know that our local representatives, Mr. Carrier Salage, and I'm sure Mikhail Salage and Senator Kaminsky, all of them have had a hand in it in making Elmont Ridge Road a one-way for a particular period of time during school hours. And there was some fervent discussion shortly after the accident on Dutch Broadway. And it is my understanding now that the accident has sort of faded into the background, that people now are concerned that it's a one-way, and people want to go back to their reckless ways. So I don't know if we should, if I should let the representatives, as they are here, answer that question, but I think I'll leave it to the police department, who can tell us maybe there should be a step up of even more tickets.
I was good with the rest of them answering, but that's So we issued over 1,400 summonses in the last several months in that area. We seized cars, we locked people up. I can't change human behavior. And we're out there, we have signage out there, we have speed signs out there, we have lighting out there. The county and the town are looking at changing paths. People get comfortable in the ways, and you just said it, the accident gets put in the background, and now they're being inconvenienced because it's a one-way, and now they're complaining that way.
Exactly.
So I got it, and we're going to continue with the enforcement. We're going to still send that message home, but I'm not changing that human behavior. And unfortunately, we've had people, and just that last week when I spoke down the block here, it was the same thing that came up and said, look, as the crossing guard is out there, a car blew through the intersection. I got it. But we can't have a cop on every inch of the roadway. 1,400 summonses were issued. It's a lot of summonses.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Johnson at the back had his hand up first.
But here's the problem, and this is what's being missed, because we're going to wait for another kid to actually get hit on the block of Ridge Road where the kids are being dropped off at. That's where the problem is. We have an officer there because you know the drop-off times. The drop-off times is from 7:30 to basically 8:15 a.m. And truly, it's not the cops' problem, it's the parents' problem. If parents realize that there's kids getting out of cars, instead of trying to speed where you have to go, and kids are stepping out into traffic, you're going by, you got a coffee in your hand, you going and the kid get hit, then everybody's sad. Here's the problem. You can't make a U-turn on a one-way street. But the problem is we don't have any officers. If you had a presence, just a presence of a cop being right there, it'll stop a lot of issues. And it's only for really 45 minutes. So we can have also at pickup time from 2:30 to 3:30. If there's a presence, a lot of the behavior you talk about would change. But it ain't gonna change when there's nobody there, and they keep getting away with it until we have the problem of sitting in this room talking about a dead child that was hit at the school on Ridge Road that is a one-way now, which is safer than having it as a two-way. What can we do about having a presence there from our law enforcement to help with the problem?
So I'll tell you this. We'll put a presence there tomorrow, but we can't stay there.
45 minutes.
No. I mean, we can't stay there every day. There's 430 public school buildings in the county. 430 buildings. That's 430 cops. I only have 170 working.
But there's been 2 deaths in 3 years at the same school. Just make note of that.
I know that.
So bring that up in
like
that
I said,
fact.
we put the signage out there, we changed the roadway, we put the lighting, we wrote the enforcement of 1,400 tickets. We'll continue that. I'll even take a shot for the next couple of days or the next week. We'll put a presence there. Right? We'll pay for the extra overtime to put a cop out there. And what's going to happen is the minute we walk away, they're going to go back to doing the same thing.
But it's a 45-minute window.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying to you. It's a 45-minute window to save a life.
There's also 456 school crossings a day.
I get it.
But we got to cover them all.
I get it. So even if you do a pop-up, I'm gonna do the pop-up. Let's just say, if you schedule it where now parents don't know when a cop is going to be there, they'll be more afraid of making these moves because the U-turn is going to be the most dangerous thing in killing a child.
Got it. And the pop-up will start tomorrow. And look, we'll be there.
I'll be there.
It'll be hit, it'll be missed, it'll be hit, it'll be missed. But you said it a second ago. It's got to start at home. It's got to start with conversation in your community. It's because, like I said, I got crossing guards in the crossing guard, walking the kid across, and they're blowing through. Because the people aren't too much in a hurry until someone else's life is lost. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Pat Boyle from Gateway Youth Outreach. You had this problem solved. You really did. When speed cameras were up on Dutch Broadway, people crawled past Dutch Broadway. They crawled, but everybody in the community, a lot of people in the community came out and said, no, we don't want tickets anymore. There's an easy way not to get a ticket. Slow down.
So schools have been there for 50, 75 years. And we put a speed camera out in front. And they said, we got to give them warnings. Well, what have you been doing for 75 years? Speeding through the school zone? Yeah. So when the cameras went away, they went back to the speeding because there's no penalty to it. Right. I got it. I totally get it. But the screaming for the tickets was a lot more louder than the ones for not.
Yeah,
yes,
unfortunately.
If parents don't care about the safety of their own children, which they do not, because on Ridge Road in the morning, they're throwing them out of the cars, it's a 4-lane highway, and it's a free-for-all, okay? So parents themselves don't care. If there's a cop there, they're not going to care. They have to be told. They're going to be told all of the time. It is not a police problem, it's a parenting problem. And I think the police should reach out to the school board and to have the principals in all of the schools do some kind of program with parents and for child safety and for traffic safety, because you can put up signs. I see the signs. I came down and asked for the one-way roadway. I stopped. So it doesn't matter unless parents start waking up and know that they're going to kill their own children, because that's what's going to happen.
I really appreciate that comment, and we have one more question that I have to get to, and then we'll allow each of the representatives to make some closing remarks. And so the question is, there is a hookah smoke shop being... I'll rephrase. There is a hookah opening at the Village Shopping Center. Center.
Elmont ain't that bad.
Which is right across the street from Elmont Memorial High School. And the question is, how was this approved?
Yes.
I doubt it was approved. It probably just opened business. I'll take a look into it. It is a variance. We do have a specific law about hookah lounges, so they do need to go before the variance board. So if there was no public hearing, then they probably do not have a use permit for that purposes.
Okay, so that gets it. So that's the end of the question and answer period for tonight. We will begin with Senator Todd Kaminsky with some closing remarks. Senator Kaminsky, 2 minutes.
Thank you. So I think the preferred nomenclature these days is sex worker. That's what you're supposed to say in Albany anyway. People want to legalize sex working. I'm like, don't we have, other things that we can be focusing on? I just want to say that having this forum tonight was very important because often all your levels of government are come to you at different times with different things. So I will show up to a civic meeting and someone will say, why is there garbage blowing down the side of our street? And my answer is, look, as a state official, I could call the town, I could call, if there's a safety issue, I could call the police commissioner. But having everyone at once in one place was important to do for this reason, and I hope this isn't a one-time thing. We need to do this a lot more. Elmont so often falls in the cracks. There are pluses and minuses from having a village system. When you have a village, you have a mayor, someone you see in town, you could ask questions for, but there's also taxes that come along with that. There are pluses and minuses. A minus from not having a central system is this doesn't happen often enough. That shouldn't be the case for you. We will continue to make this happen. And I will say this, we do have a really good working partnership between Senator Kaplan, Assemblywoman Szilagyi, myself. In Albany, we really all work together. This week, did you happen to mention the IDA thing? No. So we worked together on a bill to make all IDA meetings live streamed so you can actually see what's going on when people are trying to do things with your tax dollars. Something that we came together to do. Doesn't sound complicated, but it's taken 20 years, and we're finally working together after what we saw happen in Green Acres. We said, how many people went to that hearing at Green Acres when millions of dollars of tax money were lost? 0 people. That means that key decisions about your money are being made under darkness, no more. We work together to get that done. So we're going to continue to work together with Elmont in mind, whether that is dealing with Belmont, whether that's dealing with transportation, whether that's dealing with quality of life, whether it's dealing with education. And we did work really hard this year to get some good school money back for both districts, some of the highest percentage gains around. I'm really proud of that. And we try to do the same thing for Gateway as well, making sure that was a priority so the after-school programs are there. We will continue to work hard for you. Our door is always open. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Once again, just to echo the Senator, just thank you so much for being engaged in government. It's a partnership, so you tell us what we need to do and we get it done. And so, I thank you so much for coming here, and please spread the word. When we do this again, we would like to go into the auditorium, because we are working for you, and that's, I really, want to thank you for the opportunity that I can work for you. Now we're going into a part of session where we're doing more legislative work bills, and I look forward to really representing some of the issues that have happened here in our community of Elmont. But once again, please, always feel free to reach out. I thank everyone for the opportunity to really work and see some of the issues that we need to address. But, the Senator was very succinct. So if you need anything, I have my staffer Josh back there. Wave. Get him. No. So he is here in the community. He's from Elmont as well. And so any questions or concerns, if you don't see me, always feel free to call our office and talk to Josh. But we're here to serve you. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the community.
Now that we understand the difference between a hooker and a hookah, but something has to be said about the hookah lounge. If there is a hookah lounge, I'm sure the town's going to jump all over that. But on the other side of it, to have a hookah lounge, you got to have a customer. 50% of your kids in middle schools today are vaping. 50%. So the vaping problem is becoming a big issue here and across the country. And it's big tobacco finding another way to sell their items out and push their tobacco out to you. So beware of that. The next thing you said is that bringing the families in and the moms and dads in. Look around the room. Every meeting I've been here, it's the same faces. Because it's the same people who care. All of you care, that's why you're here. But you know, this is a community, I don't know what the size of it is, but the place should be packed. We should be in that assembly hall already and making those arguments. Every complaint that came out of here today, each one of them from the police department side will start being addressed immediately. We've been all over it from starting with the accidents where we jumped on a lot of the changes. We're going to continue the enforcement. We'll do that spot hits over at the school starting tomorrow morning. And you'll see a difference when somebody gets hit with a $150 ticket for a U-turn. But that same person will do the U-turn a week later when the cop's not there. So we're going to do it. We'll keep pushing the message. We keep sending it home. And we're going to work together to make sure that you keep all your kids safe in there and continue, like I said earlier, keeping that 17% reduction in crime this year because of the great work by the inspector and the lieutenant that you see standing there. So if you could, give them a nice round of applause.
I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity tonight. One thing that we're working on here with the Department of Public Works is our traffic system, and that's something that we didn't really talk too much about tonight, but we are putting together a traffic study. There were many familiar faces here from the walkthrough that we conducted back in November. As part of that, we did kick off a traffic study for all of Elmont Road, Dutch Broadway, and Corona Avenue. We anticipate coming back again. This is my third visit here now since November in regard specifically to this issue. We are also working hand in hand with the town to change the speed limit and create a school zone in front of the high school and the middle school. We're waiting now for the state of, I believe, New York State and Albany has to approve it. The town board has already approved it. We're going to supplement that with signage, electronic signage, and radar speed enforcement signage, and then table markings. Now that the weather is warmed up, once these things are established, these things will go into effect. And I look forward to helping to make that change to try to make the improvements that we're all looking forward to.
Thank you for letting me come here tonight. If you have any questions or problems, come see me. I will take note of it, and I'll give it to them tomorrow morning, first thing.
I don't know if I need this or not, but thank you again also for an opportunity to speak. I know there are a couple people that have some specific issues. If anybody else has anything specific they want to talk to on the sidebar, we'll be available for a few minutes before they kick us out of the library. And to repeat what the commissioner said, it is always the same faces that I see. I know many people, Elsa and Tammy, and you might want to try and get other people involved with things also. I mean, you are the eyes and ears of the community, and the bottom line is that we can't be everywhere at once. You live next to something, we go by it once in a while. There's a big difference between the two. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for inviting the sanitation department here. And Commissioner, you and your police force do an excellent job, and thank you for that. Thank you for your service. We are the largest special district in New York State as far as sanitation, sewer, fire department, and water. We service over 35,000 homes and businesses from White Castles in Hempstead, the Belmont Racetrack, South Floral Park, to the Valley Stream border. We pick up garbage, recycling, metal, grass, e-waste, mattresses, and we service the district 6 days a week. Elmont gets picked up 3 times a week. Elsa knows, she shakes her head. She calls me 5 times a week. Joking. It's very important that the community does stay active on our website. We have other various phone numbers if you're not sure where to call to get something done, like the question before, as far as the highway department with the sweeping. We have numbers on our schedule that explains what department to call. If you're ever not sure, you could call our department direct, and we'll direct your call, so maybe you won't have to make as many calls as you have to. If there's anybody that needs any recycle buckets or has any questions, myself and Hervé, who's the area supervisor here, will be around for a little bit afterwards. We have schedules with us. We have any information that you need. I just wanted to touch on one thing as far as someone mentioned before about the sump over behind by Home Depot there. That is a county sump. Any comments or direction of anything should be directed towards the county executive's office. We were part of a program with the POP unit maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago where there was a homeless situation there. And we were asked to come and assist, and we did. And it wasn't our jurisdiction. We had garbage trucks there, we had the town of Hempstead Highway Department there, the county was there, and they just removed the fence. The police department did a great job. They got the people out of there. We helped in cleaning up the property. So, you know, it's a county facility. But again, as everyone works together, we didn't say, oh, I'm not going to send the garbage truck because it's not our thing. We did. But any calls should be direct. It was a mess. And I've made calls since then, and they say they're going to send people there, and I don't know if they have, but it's real important that you guys call and maybe direct it through the county executive's office, because that's a little bit of a problem. Again, if anybody has any questions, I've been on the job for just about 30 years, so I started out as a garbage man, so I know pretty much any question anybody has, I'll be able to answer it. If I can't, I'll get you an answer by tomorrow. So thank you again for the opportunity, and I appreciate the time that we were able to. Sanitation engineer. Garbage manager.
I was kind of getting real jealous because I didn't get to speak one time today, but today's my time. Listen, what Nick was saying, not to echo Nick, but communication is the key for the community to get better. Whether if you have a call, we won't point fingers, we'll lead you right in the right direction. This is what we're here for. I was born, raised, and still live in the neighborhood, so if you see me around, just ask me a question. I will be more than happy to help you. Whatever you put out, we'll pick up if it's put out nicely. Nick is great at your job. We communicate great. I have a partner named Dave Murphy. He's on top of everything. Just call the job, call District 6, ask for Hervé. You can ask me whatever you need to ask me, whether it's the building department, highway department, whatever department, ABC department. I'll lead you in the right direction. I promise you I will. All right, have a nice day.
Hi, I represent State DOT. I wrote down a lot of notes. 2 issues that I'm going to take back is the Hempstead Turnpike interchange with the Cross Island Parkway. There's a lot of garbage. I'll ask the maintenance residents in Garden City to get out there and clean that up. And the other issue is I heard some support for speed zones in front of the schools. And I sit on the Nassau County Traffic Safety Board, and I'll just take that issue with me into that meeting. I know they tried to pass legislation for school zone speed cameras, and they had it for a while, but they pulled it back. They got to get the legislation right, and I think you'll see it implemented in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Putting something like this together takes a lot of work, and I really want to thank Fendi Linden from my thank Aubrey as well for doing a great job on it.
So before we close, and we are about 2.5 seconds from that, I'd like to take a moment to remember someone in this community who the last time I moderated a meeting was there and isn't here today, and that is Mr. John Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan was one of those faces referenced by the panel, one of those people that was always there. Always there. When I was a school board member, his face was always in the audience as an advocate for the community. Now, when Mr. Sullivan showed up, I knew that he was there on behalf of an entire civic. I didn't expect to see his entire civic, but when he was there, I knew I was speaking to that civic. And so, to sort of make this point, the faces that are here are representative of all the residents of Elmont. And whether you become familiar with them or not, or whether you see them and you think, well, these are the only people here, the answer is no. The answer is these people represent all of Elmont, from Meacham Avenue to the Cross Island Parkway, and from the Southern State Parkway as far north as Hempstead Turnpike and beyond, because Elmont goes beyond that. So please understand that your faces You're not to get tired of showing up and seeing the same people and saying the same thing over and over and over again, because that's the only way we get anything done. Right now, we're at crossroads in Elmont, and we're at an intergenerational project in Elmont, the project that is proposed for Belmont Park. We have we have people that are for it, people that are against it, and that conversation continues to evolve. Please stay in tune with that conversation. It's an important one, and it's a conversation that will determine what Elmont looks like, not today and tomorrow, but 50 years from now. And we will not be here 50 years from now, at least I don't think I will be. But someone will be here, my son, your son, my grandson, or some grandchild, to be, whatever, will be here. And we cannot just make decisions about projects this large, around our present needs. We have to be thoughtful enough to think about those people that are not here yet, that will have to live with the decisions that we make today going forward. So that's something I believe Mr. Sullivan would have encouraged me to think about as a public official. And so I am passing on this message to our public officials. I don't want to say on behalf of Mr. Sullivan, because I think you all know him and he speaks to you in ways from wherever he is now, and wherever he might be. I know he speaks to all of us. So understand that his face, our faces, are the faces of the Elmont community, and you will see them over and over again. And yes, there will be faces that you don't see, and it's not disinterest for the most part. It's obligation that keeps them away. So let's leave with that thought tonight. And I wish everyone a safe. Thank you very much for coming.